Hello everybody, welcome to this week's Q&A livestream. We're going to be focusing on Deadman Reborn today. I'm your host, Mods Ayiza, and I'm joined by Mods Elena.
Hiya.
And Mods Husky.
Yeah.
Okay, they've both been working tirelessly on delivering Deadman Reborn to you all, and it's great to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining me. I know there's plenty of things that you want to be getting on with, but nonetheless, the Q&A is here and it takes priority. Haha. So, chat, which I currently don't have open at the moment. I accidentally closed you a moment ago, so I'll reload you. How are you finding Deadman Reborn? Someone has written this script for me to say, any Pog champs so far? Yes or no? So there you go, I said that. Do we have any Pog champions? Chat is now open. Oh, I see some Pog champs. I see some decolons. Well, all right. I have to say, the entire team at Jagex at least has been watching everyone get stuck into Deadman Reborn, and we've been loving the response so far. Twitch viewership across old school yesterday was wild. We love to see it, and I think today is also going pretty well as well. In fact, I've been watching Manked, Pure Spam, and I was also watching a little bit of Perp as well. So trying to figure out who's PvPing and got the best builds. What about yourselves, Elena, Husky? You been watching anyone stream in particular?
I was watching Foe quite a bit, a little bit of Dino, and some of those you mentioned as well.
Nice.
I was rotating a lot between Foe, Boaty, and Sick Nerd streams, and then a bit of Manked as well. So just trying to hop around and get feedback from as many sources as I can.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to, when you're in the live stream, at least you get a lot of on-the-fly feedback thrown at you. And as soon as you reveal yourself in someone's chat, it's like an absolute swarm of red text of all the ats that are coming at you, like, hey, Husky, hey, Elena, do this, do that.
Fix this.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. We have been really excited, though, to see everyone enjoying the new twist to Deadman this year. And that's obviously with the introduction of sigils, the free life system, and the combat bracket. I see a few people that are already starting to build their accounts ready to start absolutely dominating certain brackets, which is awesome to see. Hoping to see more of that unfold. And there have been some incredibly exciting moments in game, as well as some unintentional ones, which we may show you in a moment. But before we do that, I do have to ask both of you, how are you doing today and what have you been up to? And let's start with you first, Elena.
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. What have I been up to? I've been watching Deadman, that's one thing. Not really done much else. I think yesterday with the whole launch, it was quite stressful, so after work I just kind of relaxed and watched. I didn't play it myself yet, but I really want to. Probably over the weekend or something.
Okay. I played and I got killed by someone who had maxed out like the level 35 combat bracket with ranged. I was running around as a magician and I got killed. So I decided, you know what? I'm gonna suicide, get rid of all of my remaining lives and use my protection again to rebuild, and that's exactly what I did. I'm still in the level 35 combat bracket, but intentionally I'm training agility until I've got it to a point that will help me carry on with the rest of my plans and just slow progress at the moment because obviously work and all that. What about yourself, Husky? How are you and what you've been up to today?
Yeah, I'm good as well. Today has been mostly that, we have a game update review meeting following every game update. We go through and decide, is there anything we want to fix? Is there anything we have to fix? So like want to fix, maybe should fix, like feedback, need to fix maybe a bug that's out there, that sort of stuff. And then mostly just been doing a lot of those today, coordinating hotfixes with Ash and that sort of thing. Figuring out what we can hotfix and what needs to wait for next week and all that stuff. Out of work, I was actually playing a bit of Deadman. I'm in the 36 to 70 bracket. It's been fun. I've lost a life so far. Just kind of trying to experience the game mode. Even now, my brain's just going, I think, would I make this change? Would I make that change? Nice in hindsight. Maybe things to look forward to for the next season, that sort of thing. So yeah, I've been getting into it.
Good stuff. Well, I look forward to see what your experience playing ends up changing for the next Deadman and what twist that may be. and excited to even think about the next Deadman being a possibility as well. So that's awesome. And talking about Deadman, which we are going to be carry on talking about, but it's listed as my next section to just so have by chance bring up again. We've got some announcements. So !Deadman in the chat. It is day 2 of Deadman. If you're not familiar already, Deadman Reborn is our latest PvP tournament with players competing for a chance at winning some of the $32,000 prize pool. So prepare yourselves to fight for your lives. All 3 of them, that is, as you try and make it through 21 days in the most dangerous version of Gielinor. Get up to date with our Deadman Reborn news post with !Deadman. We've made a variety of hotfixes today, and there's a change planned to one of the sigils next week. So definitely go and check that out so you can make sure you are fully up to date with everything that has happened since it's released yesterday. We're also going to be live on September the 17th for the finale, where we'll have Gamecaster play-by-play showing you all the action from the new intense 11-round competition format as the finalists once again fight for a place in that $32,000 prize pool. Now, if you are looking for a handy roundup of what's new to this version of Deadman outside of the news post, then Torvesta has you covered. Check out his guide, which will give you everything you need to know about the upcoming PvP tournament by using !Torvesta, but make sure you watch it after the stream, all right, because this is live and the video is going to be there when you need it. All right, Deadman. The way to play Deadman is have an account that has membership. So what a better way to get membership than to get a deal on it, and boy do we have a deal for you. Ahead of its return with the Premier Club Summer Sale. So for a limited time, you can get our best value 12-month membership subscription, which means you can enjoy all the upcoming content, including leagues, Group Ironman, and more. So grab the bumper gold package before it ends on September the 14th with !Premier Club. Right, we also have, as our final announcement, some new merch. So we should hopefully get an image show up on the screen just now. Check out the new merch store lines from Angelscapes. Continuing our 20-year anniversary range. Oh, there was some crossover then. I was getting really confused. Was like, is that me talking? Can I hear myself? I think it was a video which we're going to show you a little bit later. But anyway, this month we're celebrating iconic game content that came out in August. In August's gone by. I don't think that makes sense, but I read it anyway. Showing on screen now and very fitting to our theme of today, a wilderness sign, limited edition pin, as well as a PK Skull keyring. Warning, we do suggest banking your valuables before carrying these around. Hopefully they don't mean that you're a sign for being robbed in public. If that doesn't float your boat, check out this beautiful Prifddinas stained glass window pin depicting the 8 elven clans coming together in harmony. Or... that was also in there. I had to read it. It is the rules. That was one of the hardest paragraphs I think I've been given before. All right, we'll move on to some questions in a moment. If you have anything you would like to ask the team or myself, then please at OldSchoolRS with your questions. Whew. Now, hold on a second. We do have some stuff here. All right, we've got some user-generated content, !UGC if you want links to these in the chat. Some of them, I think one of them, at least the first one, is a poster design, and the rest are going to be some Twitch clips that we've been sent in from the community. Now, this is a Deadman Reborn design poster made by Lumbridge Designs, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I'd love to see this on a t-shirt, and if it was on there, I would buy it straight away. What do you guys think?
That looks really cool. Reminds me of Iron Maiden, I think.
Yeah,
like
I was thinking the same.
Yeah, the logo. It's really cool.
That's really cool. I'm just wondering why they've only got one bank key, you know? All those skulls, there's only one person to loot.
Hey man, you know what? I think one bank key is the meta in Deadman Reborn because of the shorter skull timer. 1 minute immunity. You only got to wait 4 minutes. You can kill, bank, kill, bank, kill, bank. It's great. Or at least it was until I died. But I'll get back there again and I'll wizard people out. All right, next thing coming up. The title of this is His Face, and it appears to be a clip of Sick Nerd. So let's have a look. I've not seen this before. So, yeah, I have seen this. I wonder what's gonna happen. Sit. Well, good job, Sick Nerd. All right.
Can we get like a surprised Pikachu face edit of this?
I'm sure we'll see some memes cropping up on social afterwards. All right, let's have a look at the next clip, which is of West Ham, and the title is One Jav. Oh dear. Here we go.
Oh, this is brutal.
Oh no. Oh, that's 2 javelins.
He didn't get his prey range in time.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, no, no. And he's dead.
Oof.
I'm actually being told. Have you seen my stream?
So I saw this crop up actually, and I believe that the person that killed him was also one of his friends and did not know that it was his friend. Well, he didn't know that it was West Ham, so he set him back about 12 hours or so of progress. Oops. You know, it's Deadman. That's just the way the game is.
Sorry, didn't know friendly fire was on.
I guess that's what you get for not being in the CC, maybe. Okay, next clip is from Foe's stream, and this is called Foe's. Oh, I won't give you the title, actually. I might give it away.
Of 28k. What? Chat? Say it isn't so? Say that didn't just happen?
That just happened. Zuriel Staff from a... What are they Cyclopses in there?
Yeah.
Yes.
They are, okay. I was thinking, is it a giant? But no, it's a Cyclops. Zuriel Staff, that's pretty rare, isn't it, right, Husky? From that kind of combat level creature?
Yeah, I mean, they're only level 56 combat, so... Yeah, I mean... I'd say pretty rare. Like, I don't think I would sit there and grind Cyclops if I was going for one of these weapons, especially they're not in the wilderness, but like, you know, people have got stuff from chickens and that sort of stuff, and we knew that would happen. I think that's part of the excitement, is you could just land one of these at any time.
Wasn't it also Zuriel Staff from a chicken too, I think?
Was that Mika tweeted it, I think?
Yeah, I'm sure I saw Mika tweet about that, yeah, the staff coming from a chicken. Pretty interesting.
Insane.
But yeah, extraordinarily rare for someone to specifically get, but the amount of these creatures that are killed across the game by many players, it's going to happen to someone.
Right, just so happened to catch the moment live on stream. All right, last clip coming in. This is from MMORPG's channel and Sitman mode. I wonder who's going to be doing this sitting.
Plus Ranger.
Nope.
We're about to one tick the things here.
Oh.
Pain!
If I was casting this right now, I'd say, you know, the easiest way to survive is by eating food. You know, if you eat, if you have HP, you don't die. Oh dear. Well, it is what it is. That's the joy of early game PvP, I guess, especially with the Ranging Sigil. I know, Husky, you said before that it was very weak, but I just want to say I don't really like you as much now because I have been menaced by many a Ranger running through the lower level combat bracket. It is very powerful, and Mage can't really do much against them because they're all wearing studded or, you know, leather. So thanks.
Triangle, right?
Yeah, combat triangle, schmombat triangle. I wasn't having a good time.
But yeah, that's the point of it, right? Was I think someone chat was like ranging sigils OP for chasing. Well, yeah, its effect was mostly to drain run energy. It doesn't do a lot of damage unless it does successfully do that. And the mage one, if it procs, probably could swing a fight. 12 hit points to you, 12 hit points off them. But you know, magic has that problem of slow attack speeds. So I kind of wish I had a slightly higher proc rate than 10% in hindsight.
That's okay. I can let you buff it because I still picked it on my second set of free lives. So you know, there's still time. It's any day too. Oh dear. All right. Now that we've got through that, let's jump into some questions. We've got through all the clips, all the announcements, and we have some Deadman Reborn related questions now. The first one comes in from Nod Tom C, and they have asked if it's kind of related to Deadman, kind of not. Can you give us some insights on any updates coming to the main game during the course of Deadman?
I don't actually know what's on the release schedule while Deadman's going on. I know that it's definitely something... I know we've had conversations about what should we release during Deadman and what shouldn't we, kind of because anything that is pretty major would could potentially impact the tournament. You can imagine someone's got a strategy, and then the week before the tournament launches, we, say put in a really powerful item that would probably break the integrity of the tournament, unless we put like specific checks around it not happening in Deadman and all this stuff. I know that a lot of the Wildy rework stuff is purposely coming out after Deadman's done. For that reason, I don't know if it's immediately the week after, but I know that for that content specifically, they wanted to bundle it up so that it was like you're not just getting dribs and drabs. It was like a good chunk of it when a bunch of them are done, and then another bunch later, maybe if it wasn't all in the first batch. And I don't know if it's exactly the week after Deadman, but I know that like we didn't want to go through with like a nerf to D'hide and stuff like that while Deadman is going, because that was a pretty big impact. I don't know what other content is coming out, mostly because I don't know what the schedule for it is. I know which content is being worked on, I just don't know which order and if it's ready yet.
I think some of the mini poll stuff is coming out, like the Amethysts expansion, among other things.
Yeah, I'm looking at our release schedule at the moment, and there's some things on there that I'm not confident enough to turn around and say whether or not they're coming, because I don't want to get in trouble, and I also don't want to give out any false promises. But it does mostly look like a bit of quality of life features, some things from the polls that we've done recently, the last bits of poll 75, and maybe something else that would be pretty exciting. But that's as far as I'm going to go. So yeah, pretty much our focus though for the next few weeks will be on Deadman and getting ready for the next series of updates. And we have some pretty big things coming out after Deadman especially. So hopefully it will make sense when you see what exactly is coming out, why. There's going to be a little bit of a smaller update week schedule for the next couple of weeks. It will all make sense. And it's not now because of Deadman, because Deadman's already out. We've just got a little bit of feedback and such, but that's not the whole team. They're busy away working on something else. And maybe that's something that we can update you on in the next Q&A, for example. I'll see if I can get permission to talk about it. Until then, my lips remain sealed. Don't forget to eat. Oh, very fitting for the clip that we just saw recently. Has asked, with the large number of sigils included in Deadman Reborn, will this mean we will see an increased number of relics in Leagues 3 compared to previous leagues? That is not Deadman related at all, apart from the start of it. But you know what? Don't forget to eat. I'll let you have it. What do you guys reckon to that?
I think it's hard for us to answer because none of us are on the League's 3 team. So we haven't been working on a lot of their relic design. And I know that relics are taking a very different turn in that league. But at least speaking on previous leagues that I have worked on, it was all about the idea of having permanent choices that affected your account, and they're huge, right? If you look at some of these relic effects, there's like 4 or 5 sigils made out of Production Master, because relics just had to be that big and impactful when you only got 5 of them, and there were, and there were only 3 to choose from. You needed to have like a bundle of effects. For sigils, because they're so swap and changeable, it's really easy to have like a part of that effect or a small part of the effect. You just grab on, you want the effect, you're done with it. Cool, you either bank it or sell it and that sort of stuff. So I don't think that like just because there were 53 sigils, that means we should come out with 53 relics in a league, unless those relics had a completely different design to what Leagues 1 and 2 had, right? Which, again, we can't really speak much to Leagues 3. I know that if like I was on Leagues 4 and I was thinking, oh, what would I take from how Deadman sigils worked? I was speaking to Elena a lot about this. I quite like the whole active effect thing. It's really cool. To sort of have that we never truly had, because a lot of the league relics previously were, okay, your attack speed is now like set to 2 or whatever, or it's like doubled and that sort of thing. But like, how cool would it be if it was like your attack's a slightly lesser effect, but like you get a cool activation on top of that, or we never really considered that. It was just like an always on thing, and I think that could make for some more interesting relic design than we thought of before Leagues 1 and 2. If that makes sense.
I also don't think that the Deadman sigils affect the League's relics at all. Like, just because we had a lot of sigils doesn't necessarily mean we'll have a lot of relics. Or vice versa. Like, they're completely separate things. And while it means that we have a lot of ideas for things we can do, they're not necessarily connected. Cute dog.
Yeah. Cool, but moving on. Oh, wait, never said. He's back.
They are going crazy. You have to listen to some barking in the background. I'll ask the next question and then I'll just mute out. I really like the idea, by the way, of what you said about changing it up for Leagues 4. Husky, I'm really interested to see how that might play out. Cyclohexane has asked what our thoughts are on an officialized Deadman swapping service.
I
We
think
actually
this
had
stuff.
Oh yeah, you go.
Why don't you go? You go. I usually go first.
We had a discussion about this when we had some downtime in the game update call yesterday, and there were a few different arguments, like both for and against this, right? On one hand, you could say that we should make it, make an official service for this because it's already something we allow, and it's already something people are doing, so why not just offer like a safe, reliable way of doing it? But on the other hand, that also takes away from that feeling of starting in a brand new world, right? Because if you can just generate money, then suddenly money isn't that valuable early game anymore as it used to be. So it's reliable, but it also changes the feel of the early game quite a lot.
Yeah, I think if I was to do it, I would make it. You would need like more like engine support to allow this transfer to work because we don't. The only thing we have that works for going between saves is the whole league points, and it's kind of a weird system that wouldn't work for what we're doing now because it would need to be live. But I would love if there was like a cross save game GE of like coins, where essentially someone's going, "Hey, I've put up 5,000 Deadman GP for an offer of like 5 million real OSRS game GP." Because I think that if it was just a straight up, you can sink this much money in one account to go on the other account, you're just injecting a bunch of gold. Because people would just throw like 1 billion gold into that for the separate game mode, which is a good sync from the main game mode. But then all this GP suddenly exists in Deadman mode, and I think that's kind of one of the exciting things about Deadman is that if you get like 1k early game, you can actually get a lot of stuff for that because that 1k is really valuable because there's not that much gold around until people get to the point of having alks and stuff. So I think that sort of live system where players are setting the offers back and forth would be really good because that's essentially what swapping currently is, except it's less prone to being scammed. But that unfortunately would require tech work outside of the commands that we have available to us in the content dev team. But I think that stuff would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the way that you described it there towards the end, Husky, is probably the only way that I would be like comfortable with it because it replicates what players do anyway at the moment as it is, and obviously it does sync out from both games, and it would also help swapping between the two different game modes that currently goes on as well. Again, one of those things that isn't against the rules but isn't officially supported, so you're doing it at your own risk. And if there was a way we could help moderate that, then that would be great.
It would kind of have to be almost like a GE, but just for money and just across like these game worlds.
It's also a weird
so as to
listing,
not
right?
generate the money. Sorry?
Selling 5,000 GP, only 5 million GP. Yeah, but people would understand it.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a quiet moment to read it. Okay, here we go, quick. The next question comes in from IFERS, and they ask if we would ever consider a mini Deadman mode where everyone would have the same limited in-game time to achieve their stats/gear for the final fight. For example, 10 hours of in-game time, and then you'd be forced to log out until the fight. So I'm kind of imagining it similar to how King of the Skill happened, where you had a limited amount of time to log in each day. And it was who could make the most progress, over that limited time. A lot of ways that it was abused back then, especially with like logging in to do an activity, then logging out straight away. A lot of things we'd have to consider, but as a general concept, I guess, how would we feel about that?
I get the idea because of the idea say someoe's at work right now and they can't dedicate the time, but they could put in like an hour over 10 nights and feel like they got to the same progress as someone for 10 hours. But the biggest problem with that is you would basically need to run an Ironman Deadman mode, right? Because otherwise you could have somebody else has their 10 hours of progress and they trade that over to someone else at the start, and then they build it up and then they trade it over. So what you essentially have is keep boosting the next accounts and the next accounts, or like tons of clans doing that, and it would just end up not actually doing the correct thing. And then you've also got the other parts of like, is the most efficient 10 hours to play like at like 2 o'clock in the morning when nobody's about and you've got no chance of being PK'd?
True.
You know? So it sounds really good on paper, but I think that unless you really specifically wanted a game mode which was you're an Ironman, you go out into the world, make the best account possible as a solo experience and then fight, then yes, that is something that would work. But I'm not sure that's what Deadman should be. I think that would alienate a lot of the people who currently like what Deadman is.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my thoughts on it. There could be other sides to it I'm just not considering, right? You know?
Elena?
Sorry if I interrupted you. My internet dropped out, so I completely missed like the last minute. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's cool. I think Husky was basically just talking about how essentially you'd have to turn it into an Ironman version of Deadman, because otherwise you'd have people training for 10 hours and then trading their progress over to someone else who would then trade, and it would be kind of almost like this pyramid of power feeding up into the top. And maybe that would take away too much from what Deadman actually is.
I agree. I don't really have much to add to that. But yeah, I do think that if we do short-term competitions like that, you would have to make your own progress, right? Because otherwise you could just make other people do everything for you.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think when I think about Deadman as well, we've tried not Ironman Deadman mode, but something similar where, we did actually try Ironman Deadman mode, and I think we got rid of it after a day because it was just not, it didn't work, basically. And then we've also tried, to prevent people from trading, and you're only able to use the Grand Exchange, but again, that was something that ended up being reverted because people were just suiciding to one another to help out. I think Deadman really is just this one where it is what it is, and we can change a lot of aspects to it, but there's always going to be this core functionality that makes it Deadman mode, and that's how you identify Deadman as what it is. Similar to Leagues having the task system, Deadman has this PvP enabled everywhere kind of system, and it's a case of the most hardcore dedicated players progress the most and are able to get that huge advantage over others, and as long as we're making sure people can obviously still compete to some degree, then it probably is best staying that way. Maybe. Joe Needon has said, in future Deadman modes, would you consider Would you consider an Ironman-like account restriction, meaning no free trade? You'd be able to use the Grand Exchange / get other players' loot, but not freely swap. For me on this one, it's literally just, what's the point of not allowing free trade if people can just kill their friends and take their loot via the form of a bank key? And if you remove the bank key, what's the point of killing people in Deadman as opposed to just training? At that point, we may as well just have Leagues with a PvP finale at the end.
I think the ultimate goal of Deadman, when we try and make changes, and even this one didn't do the best, is to try and super encourage PvP combat and make it like, so even if you die and reset, you want to get back into it. The idea of the 3 life system, while people go, oh my god, that's super harsh, was it's actually way less harsh for 2 lives. It was supposed to be like a 2 life buffer before punishment, right? You're obviously losing your stuff. But people forget that in the original Deadman mode, you lost like a bunch of combat XP, like repeatedly, and it was just a bunch in all skills that you weren't protecting, right? So it was constant loss, and it was supposed to be, let's try out going nothing, and then, oh, now you lost it, right? And I think it's a bit more interesting than that because it also plays like really cool with the combat level worlds, with potentially suiciding to keep quest progress and coming back and that sort of stuff. I don't think it's worked out perfectly at all, but that was the idea of trying something. And I think that Deadman should be trying to actually actively encourage fighting and for people to not go, oh, I died and now I'm just sad and quitting, right? Because you want the game to world to thrive, right?
Yeah. For sure. Okay, so a question, and sorry, Elena, did you want to cover anything before I ask Husky a specific question about what you just said?
No, go for it.
Okay, cool. So you said there... Oh, go on.
Just because chat's bringing up a lot, the idea then people are going, oh my god, what you lost and it's way harsher, was we've super accelerated it with like the idea being that sigils are now a thing and the XP multipliers are way higher for combat than they've ever have been. That was the idea. We can fully reset as long as you like super rebuild, right? I don't think it's quite working out exactly as people want because they don't have sigils like the same to get back up, but you know, that's feedback and things to learn, right? I don't think you can like really change the structure of a Deadman in progress, but one thing I have got as like a consideration point for potentially like next week, let's look into see can we make the initial protection 30 minutes for like week 2, that sort of thing, right? Might be a bit better to help people rebuild, that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's not a promise. That's just things that I'm now thinking and like, you know, might have discussions about towards the end of this week, right? Maybe tomorrow will work.
Yeah, I think maybe like in a future Deadman, it would make sense to kind of have nicer ways of getting back the later into it you are. Perhaps. It's something to consider, right? Like, let's say it's 4 weeks and then 3 weeks in, you have maybe like a 60% XP increase or a 70% XP increase, like upon dying the 3rd time, so you just get back into it faster. And then you'd leave like the top brackets unchanged, so that you don't mess up those people who worked hard to get there first, right?
It could even have been checkpoint based, right? As opposed to, you know, we save your stats and you get to a combat level world and now you will always reset to what your stats you had back then, that sort of thing. It could have been done like that. I think that this stuff is like, the whole point of this is let's experiment, let's do something we haven't done, and nobody really knows how it's truly going to turn out until they play with it, right? Until you see it. And I still think it's still too early to judge, which is why we're like still trying to make maybe tweaks here or there where we can and evaluate feedback and that sort of stuff, right?
Sure. It's one. I think it's when I think about it, it's a really difficult situation to properly balance, because the longer that we leave it, whilst it's cheaper to, say, for example, rebuy your items, the rebuild is also less valuable, because obviously more gold being brought into the game, more items being brought into the game, things going down in price and such. And then at that point, the only people that are really benefiting are those that already have a stockpile of cash to buy things, because you can't sell your things for as much, and getting your gold is harder, and obviously everyone else is already at that point to be able to start taking you down. I really like what you mentioned about checkpoints, actually, Husky, because my question was going to be if there were any, like, you know, changes that you could make now regarding the 3 life system, then what would they be? But actually, I'm just thinking, you know, something similar to you know, how Nigel locks your experience. What if Nigel was the person who used to be used in the past, I believe, before we added the interface, at least, for you to lock in certain skills, where, you know, actually you speak to Nigel and it's like, hey, I've reached this point. Can you make sure that I always stay at this point now? And that could be that, you know, if you were to die on your 3rd life, you get put down to the minimum combat levels that are required to be in the 71 to like 100 bracket, for example. And at least that way, then your rebuild is just from there onwards to max if you wanted to. And if you wanted to go back down and, you know, abuse that reset to be able to go into the lower brackets to optimize your builds, then you could just turn that off, and it could just be that toggle.
And I think as well, like, a lot of people are seeing things like right now, I think like things we would change, like you can't get your 10k from the stronghold on a rebuild anymore, right? There's little things like that, which obviously is probably a good thing as well, because people would suicide to get another 10k to trade to, like,
yeah, that's the problem,
right? But
yeah,
there's lots of little things like that do hamper the rebuild, and I do think that this unfortunately isn't going to help people now when they want to be playing in hype, but it probably will be better, like, say, week 2 into week 3 sort of thing, because sigils are probably eventually going to be dirt cheap because everyone's just trying to get as much gold as they can. And all these tier 1, tier 2 sigils eventually, when they start, like after even like a week even of going in, are probably going to start dropping in value. So people are going to be coming in and going, I can't buy a sigil right now in my rebuild, but eventually there might just be sigils that are, worth like 10k. So
And that was
it's
kind
an
of
interesting thing. Yeah.
Sorry. That was kind of the idea when we designed them as well, right? That some of them are going to be more valuable early game, but then obviously, like, once the tournament progresses, they're just not going to matter too much anymore. Like, people are beyond that level.
Interesting. Okay. Would you be no, actually I won't put you on the spot, Husky. We'll talk post stream actually. We'll talk post stream. All right, the next question, and thank you both by the way for the discussion. I at least enjoyed it a lot. I found it very insightful. This question comes in from Mazrim, and they have said, where is the event RPG in Deadman Worlds? This is a big undocumented change that impacts specific account builds heavily. It's in the news post.
So it was in the news post of the game update, right? And it wasn't in the ones before. And this is kind of the problem I have with the current Deadman from a code perspective. And this is what players are going to be like, oh, we don't care about the code, we just care about how the game works. But there are a lot of things that have just been set and coded for previous Deadmans that we kind of have to inherit a lot of that stuff. Otherwise, we'd be doing Deadman from scratch, which, would be substantially bloat out the project. But that means there's also a lot of weird interactions that were coded, and unless we specifically go back and change them and have them documented and know them, that's really hard. And honestly, there isn't a huge documented list of all the Deadman changes because it was always seen as this progressive move over to make it refining. And I think that constant refining of Deadman mode actually just made it more boring, right? As soon as you say, oh, players did this and it's overpowered, let's take that away, and they did this thing, it's overpowered, now let's take that away, you end up with a boring game mode, which is what people eventually complain. So this sort of stuff, I think, we made a list of all the things that we were aware of that have been changed, looking at a couple of recent blogs, but didn't go back through every single one even. And when we finally got done all the work, I spent time for the days leading up to it to go through searching every damn file we have for the word Deadman and trying to figure out and interpret the code to say this is changed. And I don't know why it's changed, but it was changed. And there's weird interactions like that, like with the Black Knight, because you could just talk to him and skip if you've got Excalibur. And I'm like, that's weird. It's probably for quest bottlenecking, and I think players have confirmed that. But this is the problem when you've got a new team of people coming into Deadman who don't know the game mode completely like the back of her hand, like some of our players know them because they've been working on it repeatedly, right? So players have been playing it every season, they know the changes off the back of their hand. That also ties into the tier 5 discussion that I had on Twitter today. So I think, long story short, for this, I think from a code perspective, I'd like to completely rework how anything is turned on and off for Deadman, so we can have in one file essentially all the script. If it's this version of Deadman, these things return true as being activated. If it's this version of Deadman, these things return true, and all these sort of cool little things that we really just didn't have the time to do for this one, and we might never get the time to do it. But that means that I think that's one of the things I hate about having worked on this Deadman, is all these legacy things that are just there and you don't know. Right? Hopefully that kind of explains why things like the event RPG were missed, and why players will go, why is this undocumented and that undocumented, and why it's not been nice to work on for that perspective. But that's the truth, right?
The only good part about doing stuff like that is that if we wanted to rerun this Deadman, we could literally just flip on a switch, and it would work. Everything would just work. But yeah, when you don't know what's in it, it's quite hard to work out what should and where you need to make the changes. So.
And leagues did that, right? So I think 90% of leagues can be turned on or off based on one player variable. Right, and we've been trying to get that as close to 100% as possible. If you just flip one variable, all your interfaces change and all your relics change, right? So I think that's something that would be really cool to work towards to Deadman. And it was just never, that design direction was there when League started and was never there when Deadman started. So now we've got a whole code base with a bunch of Deadman stuff in, you know?
Yeah. I can't really comment too much on the dev side of things, but I know from a CM perspective, I was back here when, you know, the first 3 or 4, I think it was 4 Deadmans went through. And I left Jagex, came back, no longer have the same machine, and I was stupid and saved all of my kind of like HTML copy and news post write-up local to the machine rather than using good practice and having them saved centrally. And it just so happens that the website that we used to host all the Deadman information on, we actually ended up having a separate Deadman website, a landing page, and a dedicated area for all of the updates that players could go to it, given that, you know, we had 4 going every year at one point. That got taken down because we stopped doing Deadman, and all of the news posts that were in it also disappeared. So I was going through my old emails and messages between people, trying to find the copy to figure out all the different things and intricacies that we'd talked about and raised at that point, you know, back in 2017, 2018. And yeah, obviously, you know, things got missed. But I think ultimately, I'd much rather we be in the position where we forgot about things like the event RPG being disabled, or not mentioning that, you know, a looting bag can be used everywhere. And all of these smaller things, you know, Black Knight Titan, in favor of having so much more new development being done. Because I guess the alternative, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Elena and Husky, would have been to, instead of adding new things, would be to completely rewrite the entire code base of Deadman and potentially not have as much time for adding new things. I know which one I'd rather have, at least.
It would mean that we wouldn't see these little small details, right? These little quality of life things, and we would have issues with bottlenecking in quests, and we would get the big twists, right? Because that's the big stuff that we're bringing this Deadman. But then that would come at the cost of the little things. So, yeah.
I guess we've kind of gone a big Deadman tangent here, but like, to me, this is very much a pilot of what a relaunch of Deadman could be. And the rules for this Deadman are, we've got a 3 life system and combat worlds, and we have sigils as well. But sigils, you know, if they work out really well, could be a recurrent thing in Deadman. Combat worlds, if they work out really well, could be a recurring thing. That doesn't necessarily mean the 3 life system needs to be. And I'd love to see, you know, if we do a Deadman next year, we have like every like Leagues, it has a yearly twist on it, a new thing to look forward to, so that it's a new, fresh experience every time. That's how I kind of would like to see it. And to me, this is like kind of a pilot for trying out that sort of stuff. And that means that, I mean, if you played Twisted League, there were a lot of things that Twisted League did well, and there were a lot of things Twisted League didn't do well. And that's kind of how I'm looking forward to this. And I've already got like a, you know, a huge list of ideas for things I would change, right?
Yeah. Well, the difference between Twisted and Trailblazer League is, second to none. You can't even compare them. They are literally 2 completely separate game modes, I think. So yeah, if that's the level of improvement that we can be looking forward to, well, bring us Deadman Reborn 2 already. But let's move on to some more questions. And I am not sorry that this is a Deadman tangent, because this is a Deadman focused stream. But maybe those in chat want to hear about a few more things people have been asking us. And this one comes in from Colin Sawyer. Hello, Colin. And he asks, what happens to the final if 2 players are in different separate combat level brackets? So I assume, you know, 2 people out of the 2,048 happen to qualify. One of them is in the 70 to 100 bracket, the other's in 101 to 126.
From how I remember it. Oh, you go then, if you know it.
We both paused for the same amount of time to see if the other one would speak, and then we both went, okay, it's us.
The truth is, neither of us made that part of it. It was Modash. But,
I believe the combat level worlds part is disabled for the finale, so what will happen is the worlds will come offline on the 16th, is it, Ayiza?
Yep.
And then there'll be 4 new worlds go up with no combat level restrictions, and only those with the highest total level can get in. So you should be able to qualify as a level 70 account if your skilling stats are high enough that put you there, right? It'll obviously be harder than someone who's maxed with melees. Because
probably shouldn't do that, though.
you're probably not going to do very well against people in maxed combat, but you could do it, right? So that's the idea, that you'll be 4 worlds open up. That's where the finale will take place, and then obviously that'll eventually proceed to a 5th final finale world, or whatever you want to call it, when there's only 12 players left.
Awesome, thank you.
You said exactly
Alright.
what I wanted to say, but you just said it better. So, jump.
Thanks.
I think someone's just came home downstairs. Does someone want to grab the next question for me while I'm mute?
Sure.
Yeah, so this next one from John Nedden. Late starts, even hours after the initial launch, are super disadvantageous. Could a longer immunity timer be added to allow people to get out of the 3 to 35 combat bracket without getting slaughtered by level 35s? And yeah, this is kind of what I spoke about, where when we were deciding how long the immunity should be, initially, originally it was like an hour on every world, and then we were like, oh, so you've got this big Deadman launch, it's going to be hype for an hour, and no one's going to kill each other, because they're just going to easily get to the next bracket, and then chain that onto the next one, and the next one. Eventually, there's not going to be any PvP in a PvP game mode, so there's made 15 minutes immunity, so you've got that. But now, it's kind of at that point where the 3 to 35 bracket is overrun by bone crossbow warriors going round and slaughtering everyone, right? Because 15 minutes immunity is probably enough to get you where you need to be if you're super planned out and organized, right? And maybe if you rush waterfall and you can get there and all that sort of nonsense, right? But that's probably not good enough for the average player. In fact, even I felt like when I got to the 36 to 70 bracket, like, an hour didn't feel really long at all, and I wasted 5 minutes because I forgot to bring one thing and I had to go back and all this sort of stuff. So I think that I would like to raise with the team that we make that bracket be 30 minutes next week, just to sort of give people a chance to at least feel like they could get to 35 combat upon starting, especially because like the rebuild people don't have 10k. I was also just musing to myself that, like, what if the starter pack got better every day, so that people felt like they, people who get ahead are ahead, but every day the starter pack's giving you a bit more or something, so you could get back into it quicker, that kind of things. I was just musing about this stuff. That's not something we could do, but like, I think there are things that we could do to help people get into it. So, yeah, the Bone Warrior build is pretty good early game.
Yeah, there's definitely something to what you said about you want there to be action on launch day, right? Because it would be super boring to watch it go live and then nothing happens. It's just you watch people do quests and maybe some skilling. But I do think that opening it up eventually, like into the tournament, would help. Because then it wouldn't necessarily, like, just generally speaking, it wouldn't be too bad if that just happened like after a couple of days, not even a weekend, Like if we were to do that today, I don't think that would be a big issue.
I don't think so.
No, probably
That's not a confirmation, by the way. I'm not saying we'll do it today, but like
Yeah, a fun fact is, Husky, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure when we were first going over the kind of like protection, there wasn't any for the 3 to 35 combat bracket, was there? And the 15 minutes was kind of like a week before release edition?
No, very early on in the design it was nothing, and then it was made to an hour because there was a misinterpretation of what the protection should be, and it's supposed to be an hour every world. And we left it with that for a while and then decided that we were fine with protection at the start. And then we decided that that might be really not fun to watch and play at the start when everybody is protected and there's no PvP going on.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember now. Yeah. Okay, I remember.
So
the
yeah, that was kind of how that went. I think as well, just like the other thing that's like kind of there is people go, oh, dying 3 lives is rubbish, but like even losing your first 2 lives is basically like wiping your bank, right? Because when you start off, you really only have like 10 valuable items maybe, and they're always going to be on you. So I think there's lots of little things like that where I think this version doesn't need much to just help people get that rebuild quicker, right? I think even just something small like resetting the stronghold on 3rd death probably wouldn't be too bad even at this point, because on day 1 that would have put a lot of gold into the game, like potentially, but now at this point, I don't think that would matter too much. Or maybe you still put a limit on once a day, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe once a day wouldn't be too bad. I'd be really, really worried about people that would just sit there and abuse it though with multiple accounts for the 10k instantly, because that's the problem that I find when it comes to like how do you benefit the average player without it being overly abused by the people that are playing, you know, at a competitive level. Because if you put something in game that can be abused, especially in a competitive environment, then it will be abused. There's no denying that fact. We see that all the time with anything that gets added in and any area that is, you know, extremely profitable in Deadman. So it is it's a fine balance, and that's why, you know, the starter packs were introduced with untradeable items, things that can't be used in PvP because you can't really abuse them. But giving gold, maybe a bit too much.
I think that's the thing as well. Like, I've seen other game companies make arguments like, oh, well, for the average player, this actually ends up being fine, right? And the truth of the matter is the single player doesn't care about the average player. They care about themselves, right? So when it comes down to, in a temporary seasonal game mode, what is going to make each individual person have the most fun, I think that should probably be the more important than over 2 weeks, is this going to be busted? Because nobody's going to care because the game mode's over in 3, right? So, yeah, I think that there's little things we could probably look to do, and potentially even as feedback, like for week 1, right? We just need to have that discussion.
Sounds kind of weird just looking at the average player, right? Because if you look at the average player in an entire tournament as a whole, then maybe, let's say, a third of them dropped off in week 1 if the tournament was not so great. Then the average would be lower. You know, like the average amount of people who played it would be lower than if it was a great tournament. So you can't truly look at the average as well. You need to split up the averages, is what I'm saying. So you need to look at day 1 averages. You need to look at week 1 averages. And decide your target group from there. I hope that made sense.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a big beast to tackle, which is why it's still to this day not perfected after so many iterations of Deadman and the minor tweaks and changes that we've made. But I think Deadman Reborn is the best that we've done so far in terms of overall balance. At least I really like the way that the sigils impact your starting experience gain, the 3 lives resetting your starter packs, because before there was no way to get them back again and such. But I would like for us to discuss outside of the stream, you know, maybe what we could do for week 2, especially for the rebuild. I think it's probably something we should consider outside of hotfix capabilities at least. And it sounds like we've got some pretty good ideas even from today's stream. So
actually, one of the smallest things we could probably do that would just make it more fun for everybody and like would be fine would be to give a random tier 1 sigil in the starter pack. If it's rubbish, you sell it and you've got a bit of starting cash, and if it's good, maybe you try it out.
Mm-hmm.
And people actually get to try more fun effects.
Maybe, yeah. Look at Husky over here, he's just spitting ideas out all over the stream today. Whew.
I love this kind of live designing.
Yeah, me too. It's always fun. Although we do get held to it now, so that's going to be expected next week. All right, fair enough. Moving on quickly, we've got time for a few more questions at least. And this one comes in from Ollie. And this is something we have actually discussed recently as well. If you die in the 3 to 35 or 36 to 70 bracket with your starting sigil unattuned, there's no way to get it back since you can't trade them on the Grand Exchange until 71 to 100 plus combat. Can we have an NPC that sells the starting sigils for something like 100k GP?
If you die with your sigil unattuned, that just feels like you were in complete control of what you had. I mean, maybe you didn't know that an unattuned sigil would disappear, but it is stated that like all unattuned sigils are lost if they're in your inventory. If it's in your bank, it would have been safe as well. But all you have to do is attune to it, and then it's not lost unless you lose your 3rd life. So this kind of feels like if you're in this situation, maybe just lose your 3 lives and rebuild, or deal with that as sigil. But like, yeah, I think that like I don't like the idea specifically of an NPC sells it for 100k. I think there is a kind of bug where we meant to make it so you can't sell those sigils on the GE until that world, but you actually also can't buy them, which somebody told me about in chat, and I don't know if we can separate those checks easily, especially maybe not as a hotfix, but that is something to look at. So maybe we do allow people to buy tier 1 sigils on those worlds, but not to sell them. But yeah, I think the one thing I actually don't like about the way the sigils were is maybe we should have just allowed you to attune to them in a safe zone instead of a bank, because one of the issues is no matter where you spawn off Tutorial Island, you have to go out of your way during your 15 minutes protection to attune to it, right? And that's kind of like a bit annoying. It's really annoying actually if you're in Lumbridge, but you know. But yeah, those are the little things.
Possible solution. Sorry, I thought you were done. I think one possible solution to it is make it be kept on death just for those sigils, and if you're in a bracket that where you can't buy it on the GE, you know, just to try to prevent people from actually losing it, even though it's a case of like, why would you bring your unattuned starter sigil out of a bank? Like it, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that in the first place, but mistakes do happen.
We had to hotfix something in the first hour or something because people had figured out they could use the incinerator to destroy their sigil. And I mean,
but they didn't. They just talked about doing it, but they didn't actually dare do it, which I'm glad they didn't.
Like, why do we need to put a check on the incinerator to stop people destroying a sigil? But like, we still did it anyway because, you know, it's. I kind of find, oh god, I'm actually saying this, but like it's kind of like those like, don't drink, this is bleach kind of thing, right? But you know, it's warnings need to be in place, right? And we can try and
don't underestimate the player base, Husky. It goes both ways. Both ways. There are two sides of the. Yeah.
Aren't you a little bit curious what would happen?
I mean, you know if I was on my last life, I'd probably try it. Sure, why not? Just in case.
I actually did watch a really interesting video. This is a tangent. I think it's like a guy, Veritassim on YouTube or something. He's near 10 million subscribers. He does all these cool little science videos and stuff. But he said they did an experiment where they put people in a room with just nothing to do, but a button in front of them would shock them. And the number of people who pressed the button to shock themselves because they were just bored was frighteningly high, despite the fact that they'd said to people, would you press a button that would shock you for money? And most people had said no before going into the room. I think
I'll do that.
But yeah, like that was one of those things where like people will just punish themselves and then go, that sucks. Who put the button there? I'm gonna blame the person who put the button there. So yeah.
How many people went back and did it again? That would be something I would do. All right, let's get some more questions answered very quickly before we wrap up. This one comes in from Morton Meyer, and they ask if it's possible for us to make pets persist between Deadman seasons like they do in leagues. That would be cool.
Something that I know you, Husky, wanted to have like a larger conversation within the team about just what does the future of Deadman look like? Because this warrants, you know, like if we do this Deadman, then it probably warrants us doing it the next Deadman. So that is quite a big decision to make.
God. Sorry, I'm going to tangent here, and I'm apologizing to the producer because I know he's sitting there and going, oh god, Husky's going to tangent on the last question. I'm sorry, chat, but god, I'm on the queue again. I'm gonna do a Husky here, right? I do want to have a huge talk internally about the future of Deadman and what we intend for that to be. Is it a yearly thing with rules every time? And even what does that mean for the permanent Deadman worlds? Because I do think that, you know, that world doesn't get like anything at all. And, you know, we've even talked about ideas like, what if we came up with a new Deadman every year? And then once the season's done, that's now permanently on, like, we wipe the permanent server, and that's now the rules for that server. Which, you know, might have problems with people who play on that server, and I'd want to consult with those people and stuff, or maybe it's a separate world with those rules and stuff. But I think like I want to have a vision of what actually happens, because like I mentioned earlier, with restructuring the code base, doing something like that only works if you have a solid vision for what's happening. And I think the players deserve to know what the vision for Deadman is as well, because we kind of loosely say if we do it next year, and you know, a lot of us on the stream right now don't control our roadmaps and stuff, but we would love to work on stuff. But I would absolutely want to know, hey, what are we doing with Deadman? And if we are doing this seasonal thing, absolutely let them keep their pets, because right now we ask the engine team to wipe the saves, but we have the technology content side to wipe only specific variables now. We do it for leagues every time, so I think that sort of thing would be pretty awesome, right? If we could do stuff like that, and maybe Deadman has some of the league stuff. Like imagine if there right now for this current Deadman, if there were trophies, and hey, if you got to the 36 to 70 worlds even once, congratulations, you're eligible for this trophy in the main game. And then now the challenge is to get a trophy for the next one. And hell, maybe there's even a trophy for qualifying, right? Similar to the trophy system for Deadman. Maybe there's a task system in Deadman similar to leagues that's like very specific to Deadman stuff, but like those are points you can spend in a shop for cosmetics and stuff, right? Or like, you know, things like that, you know, there's whole questions like, you know, too many cosmetics in the game, does leagues already bring too much and stuff. But I think stuff like this, like ultimately needs that decision about like, what does the future of Deadman hold? Because you could even do things like, with not permanently resetting the saves, do some of the stuff we tried in Trailblazer. We give people like cosmetic stuff to start with, you know, based on their performance in the last one. And I don't want this to get to, let's just copy everything we do for leagues and put it to Deadman, but that's obviously just a list of ideas that are there as like, you know, we've obviously tried to immediately grab from. I think they should be their own completely different things. And, you know, but that it could also be the correct decision to say a Deadman is always a PvP league, but that might also not make the original Deadman crowd happy, because they've got this core idea in their head of like, this set of things is Deadman and any small changes on top is fine, but like without this core set of things, Deadman can't exist, and that could also be fine. And I think that sort of thing, discussions need to be had and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a tangent. Yes, I'd love for pets to persist, but I think there's a whole big sort of, I want a Deadman vision to be there. And obviously developing for this Deadman, playing it myself and going, as I said, I've already got ideas for improvements I'd even make to this system, or like ideas for, hey, what if we did this in the next one? That would be awesome. You know, this stuff makes me want to work on a Deadman 2022 if it happens, right? And to figure out all this stuff, because, you know, this stuff's really fun. So, yeah.
I like it. Thank you. I just want to see some cosmetics, honestly. I know some people aren't a huge fan of overly, you know, introducing cosmetics into the game, but I think there's so many fashionscape opportunities and kind of like overrides available that could be very PvP specific, but are tradable. That would mean that, you know, that at least be some value for those people that aren't looking to swap or PvP during Deadman, that want to still make some money in main game. It's just figuring out how exactly that works in a game mode that can essentially, you know, be gamed if it depends on kills or something like that. As Husky said, the vision needs to be there. But I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of cosmetics coming across into main game from Deadman, just like how it does with leagues. So yeah, I'll definitely be a full advocate for it.
We already know the items they should affect, right? You know, you've got people with pure builds like running around, and you're like, cool, a fighter torso recolor would make a ton of sense from Deadman mode, right? Or like a void recolor, or a ballista recolor, a dartbow recolor, a DDS, or, you know, AGS and stuff. All these things that people use in PvP, or like a special unique declaw animation, right? Like, you know, you absolutely know the people who are wanting to play in this Deadman. So, you know, stuff like this would be pretty cool. Well, that's at least what I think. And the best part about this is I'm allowed to have all these crazy ideas, and I'm very like like naked on the stream right now. You guys see the unrefined ideas before people internally tell me they're stupid, but like when I rant on or ramble like this on stream, but like it's always up to the players to tell us, is this a good idea, is a bad idea? And I'll probably get a bunch of people message me on Twitter right now and say, hey Husky, you've got a bunch of terrible ideas and I hate them, and probably some very rude words afterwards. I've got other people who probably say I love them and they're amazing, and that's, you know, that's why we poll the players and try and get opinions and stuff. So
the joys of being community facing.
I think we had a conversation once that went a little something like this, Husky, where you just rambled on for like 10 minutes and you were like, at the end, you just kind of had this disclaimer that, I'm sorry, I know I talk a lot, but I'm sure that among the 100 ideas, maybe 2 of them are good and useful to you. So I hope it helped. And it did. So we do appreciate your tangents, and something good always comes from them.
Yeah, preach. Well said, Elena.
I have like 100 ideas, and like if 2 of them are great, fantastic. We'll roll with 2 great ideas. But I'd rather have the ideas than
do you know
stuck.
what?
You know?
I'd love it if you had that reception to me DMing you all the time about things and ideas that I have, and instead I just get abuse. Like, oh god, Aiza's in my DMs again. I'm sorry.
I love your ideas. Actually, like there was a cool idea that you had, and I'm about to share it to people because we just didn't have time to implement it. I'm really sorry, guys, but we're talking about
which
people
one was
missing. This is the finale event stuff, or the pre-finale event, or whatever we're doing.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's fine. You can tell me about that.
This was something we just didn't have the time to do, unfortunately, because like things like Deadman, for like legal reasons and drawing documents and getting venues and tournaments, were pretty hard fixed on that deadline. So anything that we don't get done, unfortunately, gets missed. But there was an idea to say, hey, before we go to the finale worlds, how about we just, make it so people don't lose their lives and they have a whole big PvP combat like multi thing, and like there's going to be bosses that spawn around the world, like a 2,000 hit point Grador, and the person that deals the most damage like gets a random like drop from Bandos plus a random tier 3 sigil or something like that. Just go nuts. And there were obvious concerns about like, does this invalidate people's grinds beforehand? I think even the idea said like a potion that can boost a combat skill to 9, like just advance your stat to 99 in a combat skill, like for the like literal like day before the tournament starts, right? Stuff like this, like just to give something to the multi aspect that isn't there. And you could just say, hey, you don't lose any lives. Like you have one life for the event, but like it doesn't do anything other than you're now out the event, sort of thing, right? Or maybe something like that. Like some of the stuff like this is super cool ideas, and hopefully if we get like more time for the next Deadman and a vision and a plan up ahead of time, it'd be really cool to do stuff like this. So yeah.
I think I donned it something like just creating an apocalypse-like event, and all hell would break loose. It sounded great on paper. I'm sorry it didn't happen, but yeah, maybe next Deadman.
Yeah, and unfortunately, players just go, just do it. That sounds awesome. Like, but things like this do take dev time, right? They do take resources to do, bugs to fix, people to, like artists to potentially do stuff, and like, oh well, we don't care, just give us it because we like it. And unfortunately, that's the eternal struggle: is the everything that goes into budgeting, planning, and did it get it on time? And if I work on this, I might now take it away from another project that also has a deadline, and blah blah blah. So we'll keep the good ideas and maybe move them forward for next one. But yeah. That was a long.
All right, I've got. It was, but it was fantastic. And as Elena says, we appreciate it. I got one last question that I'm going to ask. And apologies, we didn't get to chat questions, but I think a lot of the chat questions we've covered either through the questions that we've answered or from Husky's tangents. And if not, then they're actually answered in the dev blog. I'm seeing quite a lot of them in here that, that are already answered in the dev blog. So if you haven't already, !Deadman, go give that a read. Okay, I'm going to have to ask one more question after this one because I wanted to pick the last question to ask. But Iron Fair has said, how does raiding in Deadman Reborn work? Can teammates PK'd you inside the raid?
I don't
know. Maybe?
Well,
it just depends on the properties that are mapped down.
I'm pretty sure it's a no PvP area. It was in previous Deadmans when it was enabled.
We haven't made any changes to it, as far as I know. So if it was like that before, exactly.
Oh my god, that was there we go. My claim to fame. I know more than the devs. Yes.
And the other question was, can I get sigils from drops in safe zones? You actually can. It doesn't stop you getting them in safe zones. There's no checks around that.
Okay, that was a can. There wasn't a T on the end of that. It's a yes, yeah.
You can.
You can. Okay. Yes.
I've already seen. There's already clips and drops of them. Like, people kill the level 1 gnomes in the terrorbird cage and get like sigils, right? Like it can happen. They're really rare from low-level NPCs, and there aren't many high-level NPCs in safe zones. But like,
Cool. You are able to. We are able. We affirm We affirm that
Affirmative.
it is
Good job.
possible. All right. Well, that's it. That's all we got time for questions. We ran over a little bit. You can thank Husky for that one. In all seriousness, though, thank you, Husky. Thank you, Elena, for joining me and answering the chat questions. Hopefully, everyone at home has enjoyed our conversations. And if you didn't get your question answered today, then maybe we'll be able to answer it in the next live stream. Otherwise, you can see our Twitter handles just below our heads. So just tweet at us and I'm sure we'll answer you as and when we can. However, I won't until the morning because I have no internet as soon as I leave this current area. I'm going to quickly go over the announcements once more. Exclamation mark. Well, I do have internet. It's on mobile, but priorities. Exclamation mark Deadman. It's day 2 of Deadman. If you're not familiar already, Deadman Reborn is our latest PvP tournament with players competing for a chance at winning some of the $32,000 prize pool. So prepare yourself to fight for your lives as you try to make it through 21 days of the most dangerous version of Gillinor. Get up to date with our Deadman Reborn news post of exclamation mark Deadman. We have made a fair few changes today. Some hot fixes have gone out and there's a planned change ready for next week. So make sure you have read it because there is some important information. And also a lot of the questions that you've asked in chat today are already answered in the blog. So just spend 10-15 minutes, read through it, and you may find that actually you'll learn a lot of things that you didn't know before. In addition to Deadman obviously going on, that $32,000 prize pool has to end up going to someone, and that will be showcased live on September the 17th for the finale, where we'll have Gamecaster play-by-play showing you all of the action of the new intense 11-round competition format. Now, if you are looking for a handy roundup of what's new to this version of Deadman, then Torvesta has you covered. Check out its guide, which will give you everything you need to know about the upcoming PvP tournament. Use exclamation mark Torvesta to watch it after this stream. Now, of course, to be able to play Deadman, you need to be a member. So what better way to be a member than to get a cheap deal on membership? You can get the best deal on membership ahead of Deadman's return, which is now, with the Premier Club Summer Sale. For a limited time, you can get a best value 12-month membership subscription, which means you can enjoy all the upcoming content, including leads and Group Ironman, as well as many more things to come. So grab the bumper gold package before it ends on September the 14th with exclamation mark Premier Club. That is all we have time for today. Yes, I do breathe, but not while I'm going through the announcements because I like to get them out as soon as possible. Yeah, I've been your host, Mods Ayiza, Mod Elena, Mod Husky. Thank you both for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for watching at home. Have a fantastic evening, everyone, and enjoy your weekend. Happy scaping. Play Deadman. Play Deadman. Play Deadman. Bye.
Play Deadman?
Play.